I can repeat what I said at the last meeting, or I can just wait till CIP.
Go ahead. Feel free.
My understanding of the commission's request, or the department's request for the radio stuff, was that they were no longer interested in replacing the entire system, but they were only going to be working on replacing failing parts. And so the determination of the CIP committee was you don't need the $420,000. You just, seems to me $173,000 right now is adequate to replace any parts unless they cost more than $173,000. You're no longer, the commission or the department has changed its criteria for CIP based on what you told us before. So now, it seems to me the 430 or 420 or whatever it is no longer applies.
I guess that's the reason why I'm asking for them to go back to the company and get some kind of an appraisal and evaluation of this system and what we're talking about, if indeed we either have to replace it or can we get by, because as Mark just said, if the criteria is changed, we need to reflect that in our presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, if that is inaccurate, we need to correct that.
I remember last year, I have letters from last year upstairs, the company had said that they gave us a lifetime, and the letter I have upstairs said that they thought that that amount was as best as they could project a good amount, but we can go back and ask them again this year for an update.
Well, it's not only an update, I think you need to be more specific about exactly what Mark said. If it is not indeed the whole system and it's just parts, is there sufficient enough money to replace the parts, or are we talking about the fact that the system might be antiquated and you won't be able to replace those parts and would have to purchase a new system?
That's totally two different distinctions there.
That's right, and that's why I think we need to have that for them, because the conversation is totally different.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is we'll contact the company and ask them, like we did last year, to give us an update on the information we discussed at our meeting last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, along with the fact of asking Christine whether or not we could. Do you have any?
I was just recalling our conversation from a previous meeting regarding this, and we only spoke about it briefly, but we have recently replaced some components that were damaged by an electrical storm.
That's correct.
And just for clarification, what you're saying, you're interested in knowing, and I assume I would be, well, I know I am, in terms of the expected life of the existing system, correct?
Right.
Okay. And at what point it becomes obsolete. I think that if it's the same group that we would ultimately or potentially have contract with to replace it with, if they give us some information about the new system
That's
as well.
exactly right. I think we need to do some research.
Well, that's what we did the research last year. But we can do it again and ask them to update the information that we discussed with the CIP committee last year.
Okay.
But if you could, I would ask the board though to, if you haven't already, just look at the the explanations. It's been a standard language for many years, and I did review that. It does adequately, in my opinion, still reflect the purpose. But if anybody, in the meantime, like I said, I have to get that.
But this speaks exactly to what Mark
Yes,
just
exactly,
spoke
yes,
about. The
exactly.
purpose is to update the emergency
Yes.
radio communication system, which includes but not exclusive of equipment and components. Monies would be used to replace equipment and or components as they become obsolete and unserviceable.
Correct. And I think last year the discussion was it was either
Then you don't need $420,000.
Right.
right.
Well, I think, and the other thing we need to define here, it also says to purchase equipment and or components that we need to expand. I think we need to have an understanding, is there a necessity to expand the existing system based on the infrastructure we have today? What's the life expectancy of what we have today?
And if it is expansion, do we go to the impact fees?
We would if it was for, like we did when we expanded the last time, where it was,
Okay, but I mean,
where it was based on growth. For example, with Head's project being in the paper recently is, I guess, potentially moving forward again, we could find that a problem we don't have now because we're not out there may very well exist or may not exist. If that happens, if they put that development in and we find we have radio problems, then yes, the expansion there would be because of growth, and then we could use the impact fee like we did the last time, or a portion of it.
Now, tell me something, Chief, I guess I didn't pick up on this, and shame on me. It says that you have currently $173,514, but then it says in the police computer system development, trust fund balance is $26,943.88, and then it gives you what the interest is, and then the total. Am I missing something?
Nope, that was a separate CIP item that was.
So that one also exists out there?
Yes, however, I don't remember if anybody here remembers, a number of years ago, there was a discussion at the council where the council wanted future.
So there is some dollars there for that?
Yes, there is.
And they never closed that one out?
No, because what happened is we had put aside money over a number of years in that CIP. When we ended up making the purchase, when the commission authorized the purchase, we were able to get some deals, so there was 26,000 plus almost 27 left.
So there is funds essentially in that. Okay, so we essentially,
Oh,
if we
right.
had to, we could write a warrant article to expend some of those funds.
Well, right, for that purpose, yes.
Yeah.
Just remember, for what it's worth, historically, the council, at that time, of course, the makeup is different now, had wanted future computer issues to come out of our regular budget, piecemeal as time went on. So when this was done, this was to do like the fire department did a number of years ago, which was the whole system. So it was the same theory that as time went on, we would replace out of our budget rather than a CIP. But again, that's.
Okay, I guess I wasn't aware of that. And then my final question is, there's a sheet here, the last sheet, and it has a bunch of totals. It has amount available to spend.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
That's actually the last column from the prior sheet. When it prints, it doesn't print. That's how we get it from town hall. So if you look at, when you looked and saw the 173.5,
Somebody couldn't put a legal size?
that's what we got from town hall.
All you gotta do is say fit 1 page high by 1 page wide, it'll go on 1 page.
Right.
I just copied what.
I'm not saying
No, I know,
it
that's what
was
towns, I know.
facility, but.
Yeah, that's what that is. though.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do that research on.
Okay. We have a follow-up on the Old Home Day.
Old Home Day, yes. We talked last meeting about our plans for staffing in the event. Captain Daigle's been working with Sergeant Breck, so we'll be staffing it as we said we would. In addition, I think we talked at the last meeting about the road race that the Kiwanis is doing. I've spoken a number of times with Mike Horn, I've spoken again this afternoon, coordinating that. That will not require any additional resources that we would have to pay for or anything. I'm going to go up there that morning and talk to him, and I've talked to the fire chief and worked out how that's going to go. So that event should not, will not affect the planning we talked about last month.
But we're still talking about, 6-hour shifts? And originally they said there were 2 of them and then 1 in a cruiser. Is that?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do, I think it was 2 6-hour shifts. During the day, there'll be 1, that's the roving person. In the evening, the second half will be 2, we talked about because of the fireworks that are going on
That's
now.
right.
During the day, just during the daylight hours, we will have 1 detective there with the crime scene van, 1 officer there with a cruiser, so that'll be our only static display. The
neighborhood
people
watch,
are going to be.
Is there going to be a table for that?
They're going to be co-located right with us, right at
Okay.
that point. Also, what we're going to do is, throughout the day, we're going to allow the different officers on the shifts that are already on duty to the supervisors to kind of rotate them through, so they get to see what's going on, and people get to see them. So if you're down there at any one time, you're going to see more people than the event is planned, but remember, some of them will be on duty, so we think that's the plan we talked about
Okay, so
last
we're all
month, so
set?
that's what we're doing on that.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the SRO update.
We have an interim SRO. I have more information to discuss about this issue with the commission, but it would have to be done in non-public session.
Okay. Yeah, that's not,
Just-
is that on here? No, it isn't.
No.
huh?
But I'm gonna, just to make you aware and the public aware, everybody knows we're in the middle of an audit of the department, strengths, excuse me, strengths and weaknesses and that sort of thing. Based on that, we have not received the final report from them, so therefore I'm moving that no changes to the AOMs or to the SOPs be done until we get back a report from the auditors, and we can move forward from there based on any recommendations. So I'd maintain that we make no changes until that comes about.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I guess we can make that a motion. I mean, we're in charge of the rules and regulations, et cetera, so I'm just gonna make that a motion that we don't change any of the SOPs, AOMs, rules and regs of the police department until we get final report from the auditors.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? You want to expound on that, or
Well, I
it's
just-
pretty straightforward?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think that we should, as a department, start in the midst of this information being collected and being digested, and recommendations are going to be made, that sort of thing. Until we get a report back, I think it should be left the way it is. I think it would be unwise to change anything at this point without having that back. If we were not in the midst of a
Audit?
thank you, an audit, then I would say, okay, we'll look at the merits of the change in the SOP or the AOM of the rules and regs, but we're right in the middle of it, we're almost at the end of it. I think we should leave well enough alone at this point in time.
Any other discussion?
I think I'd just like to add that, and I think it would be good policy going forward in that light, just with respect to the fact that, we don't want to create change, have the department, rank and file, or whomever need to react to and adapt to new policies if it's not going to be prudent based on the results of the audit and what may come from that in terms of some clear recommendations and a way forward to implement those.
Yes, Captain? Okay, acknowledge, Captain?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pick up. Yes, Captain.
I would just like to throw out there to you that I gotta tell you, I think there's gotta be some exceptions to that. Recently, our prosecutor went to an informative meeting today on CHINS petitions. The state has changed the law on how you go about getting CHINS petitions. That was going to be one of the changes coming up pretty quick here for the AOM, and I think that does impact how we do business, the rank and file officers to know what the new laws are regarding that. And I think the best way for that to come out is in the policy itself, where it's incorporated. And if you say no AOM changes, I think that could potentially cause a problem. I understand about policy decisions or things that may be related to the audit, but things that have to do with those type of things and law changes, I think we're going to need to get out as soon as possible. But
When it comes to law changes, I mean, obviously the department, I would imagine through the department prosecutor and through the police associations and whatnot, would have updates on the new laws, and that the department would have to follow those new laws, especially through the prosecutor. The problem that I want to prevent is requests or AOM changes that are tailored to specific individuals or classifications to allow certain things to occur. So having said that, I agree with you when it comes to law changes. The department needs to be made aware of that. It doesn't have to be an AOM